This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
Hello, welcome to Alien Isolation Before the Bell. I'm about to take you through my thoughts of Alien Isolation after my first few hours of playing the game. For those that don't know, Alien Isolation is a first-person survival horror game that was developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega. It's set after the events of the first Alien film and prior to the events in its sequel, Aliens, and we take up the role of Amanda Ripley, who is investigating the disappearance of her mother, Ellen Ripley. Let's start with my cards on the table. I think the most important thing I should tell you guys is that I am a big fan of the Alien franchise. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to love the game no matter what, because I want the game to do good by the franchise. So if it's not faithful to the franchise itself, then I'm not going to like it. I am playing this on the PlayStation 4, and I've also got it on the hard difficulty level. Now, this is the recommended setting by Creative Assembly, so I followed their advice and put it on the hard difficulty, which evidently is the top difficulty. There's no extreme or ultra hard. It's easy, normal, hard. And I'll happily admit now that I'm easy to make jump when playing survival horror games. I get quite invested in the atmosphere of games, and they do tend to affect me and instill fear into me. So I'm not one of these macho people who go, I don't get scared of anything. I do genuinely get frightened sometimes when playing these games. So let's kick this off. I'm going to go through the good points that I feel that Alien Isolation does well. I'm then going to follow up the bad points, top it off with some notes, and then my overall opinion and the grading for this game. So the good, the atmosphere and the tension in this game is very, very high. It doesn't make it too obvious when the alien is actually around, so you're forced to take it, quite cautiously throughout the game. And I've been caught out many times sprinting through just to change locations, only for the big bastard to drop down and come and kill me. So you're never quite safe in this game, and there's a lot of slow bits where there's nothing to do, but because you don't know when he's going to pop out, the whole game is you're on an uneasy knife edge with it. Secondly, I'm happy to report that it's very true to the original movie. It nails the sort of 70s sci-fi futuristic look, and the station certainly is faithful in how you'd expect it to look in this particular universe. The gameplay looks lovely, and the lighting is really, really good, and it's effective the way they use it. What I've played so far, there's no real cheap jump scares in it, which some people do not like, and I'm not too fussed about them, but I think it's worth calling that out. There's nothing really cheap here that will jump out and grab you, so that's going to be good for some people. I love how the motion tracker works. It's quite similar to the ones used in Aliens, but it uses the DualShock 4's speaker, so when you actually hold it up, the noises are coming out of the speaker of the DualShock 4. I know a lot of games are using this, but it's just a great little addition. It's a stroke of genius, really, putting little touches like that on it. I also like there's mini games that you pretty much use for unlocking and computer terminals and whatnot. A lot of people I can see getting a bit annoyed with this, but I quite like the little mini games. It ranks up the tension again, because you can't just click a button and open the door. A lot of the time you've got to unlock it using a radio sequencer type thing, and you'll be scrambling around to try and solve the puzzle, because you know the alien's knocking about, and again, if he sees you, you're dead. So let's now move on to the bad points of the game. Unfortunately, the cutscenes are very choppy and they look a bit shit, really. Now, the fact that they look a bit shit, to me, there is no excuse for them to be choppy, because they're not reaching new graphical heights. They don't look that good. They look pretty bog standard, and they're still choppy, and the lip syncing is not very good either. The mouths don't move properly as you'd expect. I don't know, maybe I'm just expecting a bit more from this generation, but I guess that's what happens when you have these games coming out across gen, because it's probably difficult to then reprogram and do the cutscenes again just for next gen. So I was a bit disappointed in that. There's a lot of backtracking, and the missions don't tend to be that varied at the moment. You'll go to point A won't have any power, you then have to go to point B needs a key card, then point C, you'll get the key card, and by the time once you've got to point C, you're in a corner of the space station. You've got to work your way all the way back, but this time the big bastard's running around trying to get you. So not a lot of variety so far, and quite a lot of backtracking. One of my biggest gripes is that there's no auto checkpoints, and it's frustrating to have to manually save. Now, I haven't even forgotten to manually save yet, so I haven't lost any sort of big chunks of it, but you can easily lose 15 minutes of gameplay because you're so conscious about taking it easy and crouching and making sure you take it slow so no one hears or sees you, that you get to a point where there's enemies about and you get killed, and then you've got to replay up to 15-20 minutes, depends when you saved it. And that prevents me from wanting to go out of my way to explore every nook and cranny of the station and sort of collecting new bits and bobs to craft and new materials, because it's not the fear of being seen or being caught, it's the fear of, well, if I go into that door and look for things and then someone comes in and sees me or the alien pops up, I've then got to do the 15 minutes of sneaking that I've just done again, and it's just frustrating. Now, I think this is a bit unfair in some ways, but I think a lot of games these days pander towards the gamer and make things too easy, so it'll checkpoint every couple of minutes, and I think over the years I've got used to playing those types of games, but there's certain points when it will auto checkpoint and certain points when it won't. Now, it will sometimes do it after a cutscene, but sometimes it won't, and that's annoying, because if you don't get to the next save station without dying, you've then got to go back and watch the cutscene again. It's just, they could have the auto sort of save they put in should be after every cutscene, a level change, something like that. And I don't know, it gets a bit tiresome, and you feel like you're doing a lot of trial and error sometimes, doing the same bits over and over again, which is a bit annoying. There's no real tutorial for the gameplay mechanics. Now, this creates quite a steep learning curve, which you can argue whether it's bad or not, but for the first two sit downs I've had, I think I've had 3 or 4 now, I was really struggling to get to grips with the game, and I was getting very annoyed with it. It wasn't until the third and the fourth one when things are just starting to click now, but it doesn't make things very obvious for you, and I feel like, yes, games probably shouldn't hold your hand through every single thing, but it'd be nice just to have something a bit more obvious and a bit more open for people to use and just get used to the systems, because you're sort of using it in a live environment and then getting put down and having to try again, which is not ideal. One of the disturbing thing about the game is that it's actually crashed 3 times. Now, I'm just counting 4, I think I've had 4 sit-down playthroughs, and 3 times it has crashed. This, coupled with the manual saving system, I can see at some point, if this carries on, it's going to cost me half hour's worth of gameplay, and I'm going to be very, very annoyed. Now, again, I don't know if it's my PlayStation 4 or whether the game's unstable, but I've had no problems with any other games on my PS4, so my assumption would be that there's something in the game that makes this slightly unstable. So 3 out of the 4 sit-downs have had crashes, which is not good at all.
Can I help you?
I need to get into comms control. It's urgent.
That is a restricted area.
It's an emergency. Don't you realize what's going on?
Apollo has the situation in hand. Your registration is almost complete.
Forget it. I'll find my own way in.
So let's segue into some of the notes that I've taken from the game. As I said at the beginning, on the cards on the table, I've got this on hard, and at the very beginning, the first this is 5 hours in still, the game is bloody hard. This morning I had another few hours of it, and I feel like I'm starting to just get to grips with it, but it's extremely hard to start with, so the learning curve's quite steep. Humans will put you down in 2 bullets if they see you. Androids are relentless in their pursuit, and they're very difficult to put down. And obviously the alien, you can't even battle him. As soon as he gets near you or sees you, you've had it. There's a crafting mechanism in it, so you'll be able to craft a number of different items such as medikits, smoke bombs, EMPs, pipe bombs, noise distractor type things, and you scavenge parts across the station to craft these. They don't seem like they're in short supply, so there's plenty to go around. It's quite a good rewire points that you can use. It can basically, you can access a panel and it will bring up a schematic of the room, and you can open ducts that were previously closed. You can turn lights off to make it harder for people to see you. You can turn off security cameras, or you can maybe make noise on the speakers on the other side of the room that enable you to get by. The story so far appears to be pretty bog standard. Now, I'm not expecting an Oscar award winning script, because I think with survival horror games the story is always secondary, and it's really important they nail the gameplay, which for the most part they do. So overall, Alien Isolation Before the Bell, what's the scores on the doors? The game sets out and achieves what it intends to do. It's an atmospheric survival horror that is faithful to the film. The save system is somewhat frustrating and doesn't actually rank up the tension, it just creates frustration. That, coupled with the backtracking through certain areas, is very annoying. I'm not going to say it's a game breaker, because I stand by what I said. I think that games these days have got a bit complacent and made checkpointing too easy, but I think they've just got it slightly unbalanced for this. As I said, not a game breaker, but be prepared to replay certain bits over and over again, and scrambling to get any save points you can, and just make sure you're constantly saving. That's the only advice I can give. I'm up to speed with how the game works, so the difficulty is not too much of an issue now. But I'll say this now, I think there's quite a steep learning curve, particularly on hard. Choppy cutscenes and poor cutscenes are pretty shite and annoying, but they're not a deal breaker. I'm here to play a game, not watch a story. In terms of grading, so Alien Isolation Before the Bell grading, I am going to give it a silver. It's a good game. I am enjoying it, and now I've picked up the game and got into it. It is starting to grow on me a lot. The early signs for the game that I was going to give it a bronze, because I was just struggling so much and it was becoming very, very annoying. But I'm starting to work how the game works. The alien is such a hard bastard, and it's terrifying to see him just drop out on an event right in front of you, and you're scrambling to find somewhere to hide, and then you know he's going to be wandering around with you whilst you try and get to point C. Mission structure could be a bit better, but you know, that's not the end of the world. There's only so much I think you can do with these types of games. But I'm going to draw this to a close now. Alien Isolation Before the Bell, silver. Thanks for your time, and ta-da.